very pleased to be joining you today from a teleperformance site in Louisville, Kentucky, where our partners are very busy serving USAA members. Again, my name is Jeff Burbridge, and I work for USAA, serving our members for the past 3 years. I've been a proud USAA member for almost 27 years now. My father was a Army officer, which is how I was able to join USAA growing up. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about millennials, and both millennials in the marketplace and millennials in the workplace. And I thought we talked about this topic after I read a very interesting article that was talking about millennials in the workplace. And it was talking about how they're different than all of the generations that preceded them. Now, I think we all want to believe that our generation is somehow different or somehow special, but this particular generation is so substantially different that it's causing disruption both in the marketplace and in the workplace as groups try to understand how to best interact with them. One really interesting statistic that I myself did not realize when we started talking about this was the fact that millennials are a third of the workplace today, but in a few short years they're going to represent 46% of the workforce. That is a huge percentage of workers that are out there, and we need to adapt. There's also a really strong disconnect between what millennials say that they value as compared to what their managers value. And when we combine that fact with the number one reason why somebody attrites from a company is their manager, that becomes a pretty explosive combination. So what was it that millennials say that they are particularly interested in? And I think there's two items that I would leave you with. That is mission orientation and flexibility. I'll start with flexibility because I think it's a really important topic. When we talk about flexibility, millennials have grown up in a digital world. They have grown, they are the children of technology. For the past 11 years, they've lived and grown with smartphones. They've had iPads in their hands for a large portion of their adult and teenage life. They are very tech savvy, and what they also see is they see the gig economy as being a really critical component of how they consume services. And so as a consumer, they're very likely to switch, and they don't give their brand loyalty very quickly. They're very, especially in financial services, banking in particular, they're 30% more likely to switch banks than the generations that preceded them. They don't perceive brand loyalty the same way that other generations have. If they look at pay and we look at benefits, there are things that they value differently than preceding generations. They were half as likely to place an emphasis on high pay versus flexibility, and flexibility to work when they wanted to as compared to when traditional work hours were out there. We talked about bosses, and we talked about the gig economy. I want to talk a little bit about diversity, though, because diversity and an inclusive workforce is another item that was listed as critical to this generation. Millennials are the most diverse generation of both consumers and workers that has ever existed. Over 40% of the millennial workforce population is non-white, and they look at companies to be leaders in diversity and inclusion. And if they perceive that the company that they work for is not reflecting their value of diversity, then they're less likely to want to engage, and they're more likely to attrite. We talked a little bit about social media. and how it is so critical for a company not just to engage with the millennial via a social platform. It can't be as simple as pushed content. They're really looking to see their peers or their influencers to drive that content. How is the brand being driven organically versus being driven episodically by marketers? And so these are things that just seem to come up time and time again. But I'll switch from flexibility and some of the workplace items into mission orientation, because this is very clearly something that they say is very important to them. They're looking for a social purpose. They're looking for work that is meaningful. And they're looking to make a difference in the world that they live in. And so having a company that purports some purpose and serves either a higher purpose or some sort of common purpose that they perceive as being important is very critical.